But Noem's apparent obsession with image actually goes much further than just putting on costumes, because she has directed more than 200 million taxpayer dollars into TV ads to promote her work at DHS. This is an ad Kristi Noem shot on October 2nd, which, by the way, was the second day of the government shutdown. So while hundreds of thousands of federal workers went without pay, including the nearly 50,000 TSA workers that work under Noem, Noem donned a cowboy hat and had a production company film her riding horseback with buffalo. And whether or not you care about the very weird content of the ad, you should care about who made it. Because according to ProPubilca's new reporting, that ad was made by a company called Strategy Group, which is run by a man who is not only the husband of Noem's chief DHS spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, yes, she's a something, but also has personal and business ties to Noem herself. And the company's name, Strategy Group, does not appear on any of the public documents about the contract. Instead, the group listed on the contract is the mysterious Delaware LLC that DHS gave that $143 million contract to. I should say that DHS said in a statement to ProPubilca that it does all of its contracting by the book. Okay. But the office in charge of funding ad contracts at DHS is the Office of Public Affairs, which is run by none other than DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. And when she was asked about why DHS ended up using her husband's company, Strategy Group, to make that ad, she replied with this: "We don't have visibility into why they were chosen. I don't know who they're a subcontractor with, but I don't work with them because I have a conflict of interest and I fully recuse myself. My marriage is one thing and work is another. I don't combine them. Well, Tricia, they seem pretty freaking combined right now, don't they?"
Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Not only has Secretary Noem been busy filming propaganda ads, she's also been busy cashing in on millions of taxpayer dollars. In fact, Secretary Noem has funneled millions of dollars to a company called the Strategy Group. The Strategy Group helped Secretary Noem win her campaign to become the governor of South Dakota. Corey Lewandowski, her top policy advisor, has worked with the firm. And the company's CEO is married to Secretary Noem's chief spokesperson, Mrs. Tricia McLaughlin. This is what corruption looks like. They're stealing money from the American people's pockets and depositing it into their bank accounts.
You created taxpayer-funded political propaganda campaigns to terrorize families and children who don't sleep at night because of the terror of those commercials that you are putting out there. You hold sick, disrespectful press conferences in my state where, let me be clear, you are not welcome. You corruptly used emergency authority to avoid procurement to make Trump's private prison donors richer by directing $45 billion for them to expand ICE detention centers.
I want to just set the record straight on a couple of things. We keep referring to Kristi Noem's dog as a dog, but actually it was a puppy. It was 14 months old. And that puppy had a name. Say its name. Cricket. Okay, that puppy had a name. And so if you had a couple moments, I would now like to do a spirited reading from the book by our Secretary of Homeland Security. It starts, "I hated that dog on the way home from a hunt. The dog on the way home from a pheasant hunt was untrainable, and it went to go attack the chickens. And at that moment, I realized I had to put her down. So I grabbed a gun and led Cricket to a gravel pit. Wasn't a pleasant job, but it had to be done. And after it was over, I realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. And so I went and got the family goat and brought that to the gravel pit. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to kill that goat with one shot." So anyway, I think the point of bringing it up is, on the merits of the bill, we can debate the merits of the bill. But if we're just going to get on our high horse about animal cruelty, which I think we all agree on, by the way, I think there's unanimity here on animal cruelty. I just, want to make sure that we apply that universally. And I think that's what the gentleman from New York is just trying to remind our colleagues, who we have not seen in a while, that, the Secretary of Homeland Security also did not treat an animal in which we believe the animal should be treated. And with that, I'll yield if Mr. Raskin has any questions.
Well, welcome back, Mr. Moskowitz. And first of all, I think your reference to goats is completely immaterial to what we're discussing today. It's not part of the bill. Isn't that right?
There are no goats in the bill. I was meaning, I wanted to, not me, and she wrote this in the book, that after she shot the dog, she's like, that was awesome, go get the goat. So. All
right, well, getting back to the substance of it, whether it's a magnificent dog like Freddie, who joins us today, or Cricket, whose reputation has obviously been besmirched by the Secretary of Homeland Security, all dogs deserve not to be treated in a cruel and capricious way.
This act may be cited as the Kristi Noem Canine Relief Act of 2025. It is noteworthy that we are doubling down on deporting, arresting individuals who assault dogs in this case. And make no mistake, I am strongly against anyone assaulting dogs. And I think the ranking member laid out very clearly the problem with this bill. But I really want to know how, if at all, it would apply to cabinet members who have admitted that they have shot and killed a dog. Is it only at the ports of entry, or is this just broadly against any assault on dogs? Because my understanding from reading the bill is that this would apply to someone who kills a dog. Now, obviously, we're focused here on the deportation of people who kill dogs, and presumably that would not apply to U.S. citizens, although I understand my colleagues on the other side are, in many cases, trying to denaturalize people. But certainly the Secretary of Homeland Security, as a born American subject to birthright citizenship, would not be able to be denaturalized. So I understand that this bill would not necessarily apply because it is really focused on making sure that we double down and deport not just people who are convicted of killing dogs, but people who have been alleged to have killed dogs. And so this renaming, I think, would really capture the true essence of the bill, which is that we really don't want anybody to kill dogs, especially the Secretary of Homeland Security. And so I would urge my colleagues to support this amendment that would rename the bill the Kristi Noem Canine Relief Act of 2025. And I yield back.
Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, you should familiarize yourself with the four corners of this room. Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, get to know that witness chair. You're going to be parked in it for a long time. You're going to have a lot of questions under oath with the subpoena power. And I hope what you're doing is clean and can withstand the scrutiny that everyone on this side of the aisle is going to bring. You think we won't do it. You think you're invincible. You're wrong. Accountability is coming. You've got about a year.
So unfortunately for Kristi Noem, it seems that her life is falling apart underneath the pressure from things going on in both her public and private life. You know, the truth is that Kristi Noem, along with half of Donald Trump's administration, literally are just cosplaying as government officials. The other half of Donald Trump's administration are just corrupt billionaires who are there to enrich themselves. Literally, that's all that's going on, because as we know, Donald Trump would be in prison right now had he not won the 2024 election. And speaking of Kristi Noem, she just shows up everywhere looking like me, basically, with this hat on. You know what I'm saying? She shows up with the hat and the cowboy hat and the gear, and she's like, we're sending the Mexicans back across the southern border. Then she shows up somewhere else like, we just arrested a ton of black gang members from Haiti. We're sending them back where they belong, sending them back where they're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? With the fluff on, you feel me? This is alpaca, you know what I'm saying? She come up with the chinchilla furs, sending the Mexicans back home. That's what she does. But at the end of the day, you know, her shooting the dog, that's been a problem. But 80-90% of everything that Donald Trump's doing in his second term is illegal. So, you know, you might as well have people cosplaying. Pete Hegseth, Dr. Oz, RFK Jr., and of course, Kristi Noem. So go ahead and show up in your outfit to the next ICE raid, because you're probably going to end up in prison just like half of Donald Trump's cabinet.